Seven-card stud is kind of an old-time game. You know, a lot of the younger poker players asked me about playing Hold'em when I was a kid. Well, Hold'em didn't exist when I was a kid, but seven-card stud did. As a matter of fact, it's the game that was played by most of the soldiers during World War II. My father was in World War II, and probably a lot of your grandfathers were there, and they played seven-card stud. The way poker evolved in the United States, for some reason, the East Coast became the seven-card stud haven, and the West Coast gravitated to Hold'em. And so when Atlantic City opened, they had a lot of good seven-card stud players, but the Hold'em players are still probably better on the West Coast. And the difference between those two games, in Hold'em, everything you have is concealed. In seven-card stud, you have up cards, so somebody can see part of your hand, can see the strength of your hand. The stud players, when they go to Hold'em, they feel naked, that they don't see anything that their opponent has, and they're always saying, how do I even know what he has? Whereas the Hold'em players are, they don't know what to make of the boards. And, so the first question is, what kind of hands are people playing? Well, the best hand is three of a kind to start out, what we call rolled up. But other good hands, usually someone comes in with a high card for a raise and they have a pair of that. That's pretty typical. Other good hands are three to a flush or three to a straight. I usually don't play three to a low straight, although I see some people do it, because I know some of my opponents are playing three to a flush, and flushes beat straights. So I usually consider three to a low straight kind of a sucker hand. But big pairs usually rule the day in stud, and one of the differences between stud and Hold'em also is if I start with a pair of kings and you start with a pair of aces in Hold'em, you're going to win most of the time, and I'm in trouble. But in stud, it's often who makes two pair. We both make two pair, obviously the aces up is going to win. But the frustrating thing in stud is you start with the bigger pair, he starts with the smaller pair, he makes two pair, you're left with your one big pair and you lose. And that's the lament of the tight stud player. I started with aces again and I lost. In stud, if you figured out you start with three cards, so you bet on the 3rd street, 4th street, 5th street, 6th street, 7th street, 5 streets of betting. Hold'em, it's before the flop, on the turn, on the river. There are 4 streets. So in a normal Hold'em pot where someone's just betting all the way, it's 7 small bets. A raise is 2, 1 on the turn, 2 and 2, 7 bets. Where in stud, there are 9 small bets. So stud pots have that extra bet in there. So as I said, Hold'em, you get 7 small bets worth of betting in most pots. Stud with the extra betting interval, you get 9. So stud pots can be a little bigger, but to offset that, Hold'em is a much faster game. So I'm not sure that stud, if you play the same stakes in stud, it's bigger or smaller. It might even be smaller because Hold'em is such a quick game. And that's actually the reason I think people gravitated to Hold'em, was it's a faster game and you can deal more people in. In stud, you play 8-handed max. In Hold'em, we see often 9, 10. You can play like 13-handed. You have enough cards to do that. So especially if someone's having a home game, they know they can just invite all their friends over and they can still play Hold'em. Stud, you just can't do that.